Stacey, it's great to have you on the program. It's strange, right? We shouldn't, in some senses, be covering this. We shouldn't be in the position where these moments are anything more than kind of pro forma ritual. It is because of this implacable opposition by the president, the denialism, the attempts to overturn the election that we are. And yet it was sort of remarkable to watch it today. What was it like to be there? What is the actual convening of it like? It's something that is in the Constitution, but we don't actually get to see often.
It's thrilling. I mean, to do this in a state like Georgia, where the last person who participated in that process, Calvin Smyre, who's the dean of the House of Representatives, the longest serving member, he was there in 1992, and it took 28 years to do it again. For me, it was just a moment of relief. This moment we finally reached after 3 recounts and audits and number of lawsuits. These lawsuits are fine, but what we really needed was the certainty that the decision would hold. And today was that moment for so many Americans.
I'm curious to hear you characterize what has happened in Georgia since election night, because I think there's a number of different stories. There's the stories of the folks that have mobilized so effectively and are mobilizing now in advance, of course, of that runoff. There are Republican elected officials who, it seems to me, have acted with a notable integrity and have held the line. And then there's a faction of the state party that really has appeared to attempt to help the president with the stealing of the election. What's your understanding of what's unfolded over these last 6 weeks or so?
It's been sometimes a comedy of errors, but also just a dark reminder of how much democracy is a theory. We have to work to maintain it. We have to fight to keep it. It's not implacable. It is not permanent. Just as we were meeting upstairs, having this conversation, casting these votes as these certified electors, there was a meeting happening downstairs, sort of the rump party of Republicans led by the Republican Party state chair. They were creating themselves as an alternate reality of electors. But what is so important is that Georgia understands the outcome, that we delivered these votes, that we are part of a larger fabric of our nation, and that it takes every state and every person in these states to fight for what we call our democracy. I've been chastised by some who don't listen, that when I fought in 2018, that it's somehow analogous to today, and there could be nothing further from the truth. I fought to ensure that every single vote could be counted, even though I knew it would not necessarily change the outcome for me. And what we have watched Republicans do, unfortunately, in these, not just the suits, but in their allegations, is they're trying to strip people of their rights, strip people of their voices in order to make Donald Trump the president again. That's not how democracy works, and that's not how our nation works. And today was an affirmation that we can still do it right.
What's been striking to me about the conversation in Georgia specifically, and it actually relates to the rest of the country, is if there was a state that had gone for Democrats for a while, like, say, what happened in Michigan, right? After Michigan flips in 2016, there's a huge amount of debate among political observers, political professionals, elected. What happened? What went wrong? What does the Democratic Party of Michigan have to do? As far as I can tell, I just haven't seen any of that out of Georgia. Instead, it's been this denial, dead-ender kind of approach, and an approach from Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue to essentially just ride the Trump train, even though it manifestly didn't work in 2020. And is anyone having a conversation there about maybe trying something different?
I think the challenge for the Republican Party is to be introspective. You have to admit where you are. And to admit that Democrats won Georgia means that Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue are not shoo-ins in this upcoming election. It means that the state legislature, even though it will go through redistricting under Republican leadership in 2021, that they cannot draw themselves the supermajorities that they enjoyed in the Senate in the last round. It's going to require not just introspection, but likely a realignment, and they're not ready to do that. It's the same place Democrats were in when we started losing power. And the reality is that the way to win back power is not to scheme your way into success. It is to do the work. That's why we are standing foursquare behind Raphael Warnock and Jon Ossoff, because they are emblematic of what Democrats have done over the last 20 years to build power. And that is talk to people, build a diverse party, engage on the issues, and make certain that we are sending people forward who actually stand for the values of our state and the values of our people.
You're someone who is a fairly optimistic person, realistic, clear-eyed, but optimistic. And we've had conversations through the years about your vision. I mean, how are you feeling right now in this moment? I have to say that I have watched the spectacle over the last 6 weeks with a profound sense of alarm about what it indicates. I think you heard the the president-elect Joe Biden tonight just talk about what was signified, what was embodied in that lawsuit that so many Republicans joined to essentially overturn the election, to install a non-democratically elected ruler. How are you feeling about where the country finds itself at this moment?
I am hopeful. I watched not only Georgia fight back against entrenched voter suppression, it happened across the country. We sort of elided that conversation because Georgia was so startling in turning blue, but we watched Michigan and Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Arizona push back against voter suppression that worked in the previous election. And this time it didn't, because people came together in those states, worked with their elections officials, and got good done to make certain that voters could be heard. We have proven in this election cycle that we are capable of better, that we can meet the challenge of populist autocracy, and we can fight back and we can win. But what I hope we remember is that these victories are not permanent. That's why it's so critical that we send 2 new legislators to Washington, D.C. in the form of Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock to pass the laws we need to actually start restoring our democracy. This cannot be left to chance. And we know that Mitch McConnell has a vested interest in not only burning the house down, but blocking the firefighters from coming to save us. He doesn't want better. He doesn't want more. And unfortunately, Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue are happy standing next to him holding the matches.